What's up, guys? This is BP Crypto Nuggets. Here we are with another podcast, and we have Christina back, and she's got her friend Nick, and she's going to tell you about a new project. So, Christina, go ahead and take it over.
Hey BP, I love you, and thank you for having me back. My name is my alias or whatever is Duchess, and I'm tied in with the marketing aspect of the hypergraph, and we literally have 70 different businesses oncoming to the layer zero, the only layer zero for the entire blockchain asset class. And so I can't plug that enough, right? And so it's Duchess. And then I have brought on for this podcast Nick, who is also an admin and pretty much tied in the same way. I'm based out of Texas, and Nick is based out of Washington, D.C. And so you're in Puerto Rico, and we're just all coming together. And this is, how global financial system is going to work. So, Nick, hey.
Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to be here with you guys, and excited to get down to talk about the project today.
Okay, so today's project we're going to be talking about is Double Dice. So, Christina, this is the first question. So, Christina, why don't you give us a basic rundown of what Double Dice is and issues you see as important when it comes to implementing gaming on a blockchain type infrastructure?
Absolutely. Basically, Double Dice is a revolutionary gaming platform. And when I say that, I mean that Double Dice turns the bet placing industry inside out. Like, they bring groundbreaking ideas and technology front and center by eliminating the house, instituting pooled betting, and mobilizing collective wisdom, odds determining factors for the people instead of against the people. And when I say that, normally in real-time betting out of Vegas or whatnot, you're going to see game makers, they know who's betting on what, and they even out their odds by increasing their percentage and whatnot, and getting people to bet on the other team by saying plus or minus points, right? So this is going to be a thing of the past. Gaming has not changed in over 20 years, even though that we've seen augmented gaming and virtual reality gaming, and in technology, gaming has changed. But in reality of how the people rake their money, oh no, it's not changed. It's always on the house. So Double Dice is a first of its kind gaming and betting approach. It brings fairness back center gate, and it's putting a new foot forward for online gaming. The Double Dice motto is no house, no edge, true odds, right? So for your other question about blockchain and gaming, I can name at least 4 or 5 gaming industry concerns that will clearly articulate the value proposition for Double Dice, most of which start and end at whether the platform is centralized or decentralized. But other issues exist as well, for sure. Just like in every other industry, centralization wreaks havoc throughout the system, and it concentrates power in such a way that the people don't even have a chance. Number one, centralized gaming platforms can shut you off anytime they want, no matter what status or wins, number of wins that you've achieved, right? So in addition, centralized platforms can be prone to single point of failure, attacks, or hacks. These hacks can be internal as well. So in thinking about that, what if a frustrated employee decides to misuse that internal data and cause a serious issue with regard to participants' personal information, right? So we don't want that. That's the whole point of decentralized gaming. And that's the whole point of the anonymous and being anonymous in privacy settings. That's where this is groundbreaking. Number 3, the most obvious concerns within the online gaming industry are fees and scalability. Transactions can be costly when the network or the platform is in high demand. Also, if the platform isn't on blockchain, then you have no way to really even reconcile whether your bets were actually placed. If you win, how much did you rake compared to how much you should have raked? In other words, where are the hidden fees, right? Imagine for a minute if Double Dice was going to try to build this platform on Ethereum. Firstly, punts and calls would no longer be affordable. Hell, people already hate the fees that come with one-off smart contract transactions. That 70 to 80% of the fees we pay in gas are related to those smart contracts. That's how it works. Imagine if every time you placed a bet, you paid more in fees than the potential win was even worth. People don't even want to stake and unstake for rewards, right? Because of that dilemma. Why? Because of network congestion and TPS concerns. Transactions per second on every blockchain that we know of are capped, right? So during the busiest times, only the transactions of the highest bidder get through in the form of who's paying the highest fees. That in itself is centralization. Only the rich get richer. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If nothing changes, nothing changes. I've spoken to cryptics about this issue, and flatly, it's not likely that much gets better with regard to Ethereum until 2023. And even then, what splice and dice hodgepodge fix will they come up with this time, right? Every time you and I do one of these podcasts, BP, I speak to this concern. I say Ethereum and most layer 2 solutions are not sustainable. It's like if I had a car and every 2 days I had to take it to the shop for 24 hours, could I do it? Probably yes. Would I do it long term? Hell no. But at least with blockchain gaming platforms, there's an immutable ledger. That's the one thing that I want to drive home. The transactions actually occurred. We can see that. For me, even the betting and gaming industry can and needs to experience a revolution and step up and become accountable. The entire value prospect with regards to utility of a project always boils down to what problem does it solve. The people are tired of getting ripped off, and until now, they've just had to take it. That's where Double Dice comes in. Smartly, they have taken a community participants first approach to programmable logic inside their state channel. They don't have you betting against the house, right? With artificial limits and arbitrary odds. It's gaming in the truest sense, in that people are doing punts and calls, and that's bets and calls against the collective wisdom. If no one wins, you just get your money back. What does that mean? Instead of the house raking all ties or capping the payout to increase their profit margin, let's use roulette as an example. If the wheel spins, right, and the ball does not land on your number or anyone else's number for that matter, the house just takes all the money. And roulette wheel operator looks at you really sad, like, oh my goodness. They know that the odds are stacked in their favor. They just work there. If they could say, run, dummy, they would. VK, the founder of Double Dice, has designed a platform that just returns your money if the collective participants don't predict the eventual outcome correctly. I'm done.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so Nick, tell us, Nick, about all the different gaming options that will be possible and more about Double Dice.
Okay, yeah, great. So, to start, I think that the plan is things were hopefully going to go live in Q1. And beginning with that, there'll be sports betting and then followed by political betting. So there'll be a lot of options there as far as different ways that you can place bets and wager. And then down the line, as things roll out further, there'll be more casino-type games like poker, Duchess mentioned roulette, blackjack, craps, slots, and additional games along those lines, followed by things like esports betting, fantasy leagues. And what I actually think is like really cool about the platform is you could take a step back and think about like placing bets on just like all sorts of things. People like to bet. You could bet on the weather. You could bet on really anything. And so one thing I thought was pretty neat is just like thinking about the Constellation community and all the little like nuances of this community and things that like people that were interested could like actually bet on. So like one thing that's been sort of popular lately the soft node staking, basically where people are staking the equivalent amount of DAG to a node. And right now there's about like close to 3,500 nodes staked, last I checked. And we restake at the beginning of each month. So one community member had a really cool idea, which would be like, you could place wagers on, how many nodes will be staked next month. And I think this is just kind of like a neat way to think back and say, I'm not a big like football guy, right? I don't watch basketball. I'm just not my thing. But it would be really fun to just bet on things that I am interested in, and Constellation being one of those. And I think the other thing that makes that really cool is, you could also set up, like, if you're running the room or you're a bettor, you could look through and say, oh, like, this outcome would be, hey, I think we'll have more nodes next month, or maybe we'll have less, or maybe I think we'll have the same. You could have the bets broken up that way. You could also have it bet up to say, hey, maybe there'll be 5% less, or 1 to 5% less, or no change, or 1 to 5 more, greater than 5% more. So there's a lot of different ways that you could sort of set this up so that you could have a little bit more fun with your betting, and also kind of expand the possibilities beyond stuff that maybe people that aren't as into gambling and sports betting might actually be interested in, whether that's some broad thing like the weather, or kind of something more niche like our ecosystem currently. The other thing is, I think it gives you tools to do things like this, where you really, the possibilities are really endless, and it really just can be based on your imagination. What you think is pretty fun, you could do, and I think that is what really makes this going to be a fun platform for people.
100%.
So
the other thing is, that just touched on the roulette aspect, but like with poker, you'll be able to bet on every hand if you like. So you'll be able to see all the hands. And potentially chime in and say, hey, okay, I'm going to bet on, hands 2 and 3. This hand 4 doesn't look very good. 5, I think, could win. Maybe I'll put, double my money down on that. So I think it's also going to add a lot of fun ways to play games that people have played in the past, and add a new layer to that.
Interesting. So Nick, could you cover the long-term strategic evolution of double dice, as well as betting receipts trading? Could you explain this concept? Does this involve NFTs?
Yeah. So, like typical things, like let's say you're betting on, poker, roulette, things like that. Those would just be bets. They wouldn't necessarily involve NFTs. But let's say we're going back to like a political race or something like that. When you place your bet, you'll get an NFT, which is essentially, like basically equivalent to your betting stub that you would get, like say if you went to a horse race and you bet on, the Kentucky Derby, you get a little piece of paper after you place your bet, right? So those bets will actually be held as NFTs. And what's really cool about that is, as odds change over time, let's say, you placed a bet right now on the next election. Let's say a year from now, odds have changed, things have narrowed down, people may not be in the race anymore. And your NFT that you bet on so early is now perhaps worth a significant amount of money, even though the outcome hasn't happened, and even though potentially what you bet on may not even be the outcome, but given that the odds have changed, that ticket could be worth value. And so there'll actually be sort of like a market where you would be able to perhaps trade that NFT, sell that NFT to somebody that wants it, that believes, hey, you're sitting on a 10x, but maybe you have the potential for 100x, but you're like, I want to get out of this bet. I want to get my money back, take in my winnings. Then somebody else is interested and says, hey, I still think this is going to, 10x or something from here. So they buy your ticket. So I think it's actually a pretty neat way that you can turn a traditional betting ticket into something really fun that is also a tradable asset.
So
the other, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, continue.
The other thing that you mentioned, sort of like the evolution of the platform, we sort of touched on the games and things so far, but I think the other cool things that they're talking about doing down the line would be things more like metaverse and social engagement ties with, you could have like a gamified persona. There could be like collectible NFTs. I mean, there's so many things that could come down the line. Like, maybe you have like, your own little private room, and you have, like you have an NFT couch or something like that. There's all kinds of neat things that they'll be able to do as things move on. As well as another thing that I saw that was really neat was, if people were interested potentially down the line, you could have like auto betting, things like that, where you could mirror somebody that's like actually a good gambler, right? Like, I mean, I suck at sports betting. So, if there was some guy that was really good, it would be kind of neat to say, hey, I want to kind of mirror the bets he does. So there's a lot of ways that the platform can grow. And I think it's really going to be neat to see how things play out. And things will obviously declare themselves as popular, and things will be requested as things go along. And the platform is really going to be designed so that, as those things come along, that there'll be ways to build out and grow to service all those different needs.
Hey, a shout out to Eric, Digital Dive, Mr. Digital Dive, right? Void NFTs. Literally, his NFTs could become the financial NFTs on this project platform. That's the beauty of the interoperability of the hypergraph. And the other thing is that if you wanted to, you could bet on how many different types of NFTs are possible on the hypergraph. Just saying.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that could come from this that I think it makes it a lot more fun than just traditionally, going to a casino or just placing an online bet somewhere.
Interesting. Awesome. Interesting. So, Christina, could you tell us why eliminating the house is so important to the Double Dice platform?
Sure, absolutely. So typically until now, right, a bet in a casino or online has been a contract between the house and the player. This is described as the hub and spoke betting, where the house is the hub and enters into multiple one-on-one bets with the players. And you can see how that would work, right? The house makes money in a few different ways within the actual gameplay. They usually charge rake fees, right? Which is a fixed percentage of the pot fees of any given bet. And then they charge sitting fees, which is basically rake fees turned inside out. That's where they take the total amount of money that they expect to be gambled and then divide it by the number of players. And that's how they get their sitting fee. It's the same thing, okay? And then they have no-win looting. No-win looting. That's shocking, right? That's where the house wins all ties and takes all the money if no one wins. And then they have the edge. This is where the collective wisdom of Double Dice comes into play. It's like in the white paper, Double Dice, the founder, VK, describes as arbitrary capped betting. It's actually the difference between true probability-based odds and casino house odds. This tactic lowers house risk exposure and increases their own profit margin. I mean, it's not transparent at all. In addition, there have been times where the house has taken an extremely long shot bet and has had to pay out, basically been liquidated, right? The house can be liquidated if they take a long shot bet, being that the counterparty isn't always what it's cracked up to be. And it does carry significant risk. The room holders or game makers on Double Dice, they won't have that risk. Happily, Double Dice opted out and opted for fairness in collective wisdom betting and offloaded counterparty risk. I'm done.
Awesome. Interesting. Nick, will you also describe Double Dice Tokenomics? What is their ticker? Have they had pre-sales? What was the launch fundraise amount? Give us a total supply, circulating supply at IDO, token utility, etc. Just a general breakdown.
Sure. Yeah. So, first of all, the ticker is DODI, DODI. They did do a seed sale and a private sale, and then most recently they did the Lattice Launchpad. And it was actually pretty cool because, they started out, with an amount, and then they actually decided to just go all in on this. And so they actually raised $250,000 on the Lattice Launchpad. And we had about almost 5 million Lattice tokens staked. That's just tokens. So really, really good turnout for that. And also, the people that did do the launchpad actually got pretty decent returns. I was looking at some of the stats, and like the 2.5K pool, people got around 140,000 DODI. And then the 10K pool, people got around 200,000 DODI. So, it's definitely larger. It's one of the larger raises I've seen on a launchpad. And also, the people that got involved, even in, the smaller two pools, still got a pretty nice chunk of DODI for that. So, the total supply is 2 billion or 10 billion, and the tokenomics at launch circulating will be about 420 million tokens with a valuation of about 2.1 million market cap to start. As far as the general tokenomics, they're all in the white paper, the tokenomics paper and the pitch deck, but I wanted to highlight a couple things that I think are pretty cool about the tokenomics, and then also, sort of what the token does in the system. So some of the general highlights I really liked was there's 37% that's staged basically for yield incentives. And what this is it's going to be correlated as the platform grows over 2 years. And their goal for, within 2 years is to make about a $30 million profit from the platform. So if they hit that within the 2-year mark, all those 37% tokens are going to be distributed to the token holders over time via an airdrop. So there's no need to stake or do anything. They're going to take a snapshot at the time these milestones are hit, and everybody holding tokens at those times will receive a percentage. So obviously this will be scaled out over that 2-year time as milestones are hit. They'll probably release different ones at different times. But the thought that if they hit 30 million by 2 years, that's 37% of the tokens that are going to go back to the people, which is really, really cool. The other thing that's really neat is they have a little over 20% saved for company reserves. And this is, in case they need to do additional funding down the line, or, to do any additional things that they might need as the platform builds out to make the platform great. But what's really cool is if they do hit that 30 million milestone by the end of year 2, they're going to burn all of these tokens. So, that's another, basically taking 20% out of circulation is awesome, right? There's also some interesting ways that the token can be used. So when you're betting in these rooms, you're not really going to use DODI. You're going to use ETH, Bitcoin, stable coins, whatever the room holder may designate as the payment method of choice for that room. But what the holding the token does do beyond getting these awesome yield incentives and potential burns is that if you hold about 2.5 million DODI, you're going to get a 33% fee reduction. And at 7.5 million, then you basically pay no fees, so you can use the platform for free. Then beyond that, you can run rooms with higher number of tokens. So per the tokenomics, about 10 million to run a room would be like an unbranded room, and this could be either a private room or a public room. So you could set this up just to hang out with your friends or people you invite, or and if you're trying to make more money from it, potentially you might want to open it up to the public. And the benefits of this is you can choose the game you want to play. You can set the rake for the room, which will be your fee basically, and then you can also take some ownership, right? You can promote the room. You can partner with people, and if you want to give them a piece of your rake, for helping you out or being influencers and things like that. There's so many cool ways that you can use this to kind of market yourself. Yeah, exactly. And then at 100 million, you could do a branded room, which will add additional features. You could have like little shops and all sorts of neat things in there. And DODI will even run that room for you, and then you invite the people that you want to join. So kind of taking a step back and seeing, I think that there's a lot of benefits for holding these tokens, whether you're going to run a room or you want to reduce fees, or even at smaller volumes, to get in on some of these yield incentives. Over 50% of these tokens may either go back to the people or be burned, and I think that's pretty awesome.
So what I would add to that is that you want to apply game theory. Okay. I mean, we've got one admin in the channel that talks about game theory all the time. But for the tokenomics of Double Dice, I would say that it's intentionally left tiny for you to work it out in your mind. So you really want to get involved. You want to come into the channels, you want to talk to the admins, and you want to apply what you learn. So definitely need to join the Double Dice Telegram channel.
Yeah, and I think this yield incentive and company reserves, for hitting these milestones. I think that that motivates everybody to help promote and get more involved in the platform itself, right? Because even if you're holding like a small amount of DODI, 37% yield incentive is pretty awesome, right? Or having them burn 20% of the tokens is pretty awesome. So it really motivates everybody, no matter big or small, to try to promote things and really help build this thing in a really fun manner.
Hey, and I don't think you and I have talked about this, but one thing I wanted to add to the tokenomics is the fact that later on, when you get to talking about the staking incentive that goes on IDO day, I actually equate that as to the same thing as running a node, right? Like with DAG, we hold our DAG to run a node to get rewards and validate transactions on the hypergraph. With DODI, we're going to stake our tokens to run a room to place all the bets that we want and rake in, a fee, regardless of which way the bet goes, because this is just a platform. The actual game makers that introduce whatever it is game that they want are the ones that decide what, they're betting on or whatever. Like Double Dice has nothing to do with that. It is a technology company similar to Constellation. It's washed its hands of that regulatory concern. The RNGs or the random number generators, right? The algorithms that will be run in this program are actually random. And they're actually random in that they are run in real time. They're not pre-programmed, random, ticket deals. In other words, they know what's going to come up on the flop. None of that crap. This is all real-time, random number algorithms, and I'm super proud to represent this company in that way, and super proud to introduce the platform for everyone to understand what fairness in gaming online and betting and things like that can be, because this is the first of class evolution in 20 years. As far as the online gaming, I mean, they can do virtual reality and augmented reality. It basically is just putting lipstick on a pig. What they've done is they've transformed the pig into a lion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that. So Christina, do you mind speaking specifically to the future possibilities of Double Dice after they migrate to Constellation's hypergraph and HTTP protocol?
Oh, that's my favorite subject. My favorite subject. Okay, so I don't want to say too much or promise things that can't be delivered, but what I will say is Double Dice is only limited by the creative genius of its founders and the technology that they've chosen to build on, right? So interestingly enough, they were going to build on ETH, and then they decided to go to the layer 2 solution for Polygon because the fees would be a little bit better and the technology's a little bit better. But when they were introduced to Constellation Hypergraph, like light bulbs went off in VK's mind, because then his hands were untied and he's able to literally realize his dreams and flip online gaming on its head and bring the odds in favor of the people for a change. What we do know is that DAG has its has its own on-chain oracles that can be used as data feeds and can verify data in real time. These are things we've talked about in the Lattice podcast before. But the world awaits an innovative, non-centralized way to fetch gaming results. In other words, BP, if you've ever done any online gambling, the results come from certain centralized platforms. You might get the results for all the sports bets, out of Vegas or whatever, right? But those are all legacy systems. They're not blockchain systems. So what we do a way to connect in a decentralized manner to all of these different places where we will gather these bets. Like, who announces the winner of the presidential race, right? The media thinks they do. We saw that. But we need to find a blockchain alternative to getting the results for these bets, right? But with brand new fintech information available, Double Dice has been preemptive. And when I say preemptive, they've intentionally chosen Constellation Network and will inherit the benefits that come with integrating into the layer 0, meaning it can plug in directly to legacy systems, data sources without incurring outside smart contracts and Oracle service fees, right?
Right.
I think we talked about this last time. DAG is the evolution of blockchain, period. And Double Dice is the evolution of gaming. But let me say this. Also, we know that Double Dice State Channel can consistently be updated and coded to implement changes to its complex logic, and the marketplace gaming options to include pretty much whatever parameters VK can think of. If he wants to offer GeoJam music inside his gaming rooms, he can. If he wants to use void NFTs for his betting receipts, he can. If he wants to integrate Alchemy advertising platform for a cut of the advertising costs and wants to advertise only CBD products, he could. Like, to go one step further, if he wants to use King Silver, and this is a secret because the project has not been announced yet, it's a stable coin. And if he wanted to use that for his betting rooms, he definitely could. Like, all things are possible as technology permits.
Nice, interesting, all interesting stuff. So, so Nick, will you describe staking options that are available immediately after IDO next week, as well as any incentives that are being offered for early lockups?
Yeah, sure. So there's a really cool program that was announced, I believe, last week. And what this does is, we sort of touched on in the tokenomics how you would need 10 million DODI to basically lock a room for yourself. But what they're going to be doing, and this is pretty awesome, is you can get up to like a 95% discount on that. So, if you decide, hey, I'm really in it with DODI, I want to lock up a room, I want to do this, whether it's, whatever type of betting you want to do, or you want to switch down the line, whatever. If you do that within the first 3 days of listing, it'll only be 500,000 tokens to lock that up. So, I mean, that's like a 95% discount, which is pretty amazing. And then it'll scale out from there. Up to like as we get past 6 months, it'll be about 8 million to do that if you lock them up. So I think that there's like an amazing potential here that if you're not at 10 million tokens, or heck, if you are at 10 million tokens and instead of doing one room, you want to do 20 rooms or even 10 rooms or whatever you want to do, it's going to be a really awesome benefit. If you're kind of in it and sure that you want to lock those tokens up and run a room. So what you'll do is they'll have something coming at launch basically, and you can go in and decide, hey, I'm in the first 3 days. That means my rate's 500,000 tokens per room. I want to lock up my tokens for as long as you desire. So if you want to see this thing really build out and have a lot of time, you could lock them up for 5, 10, 20 years, 100 years, whatever you really want to do. And I think that's going to be a really awesome benefit. And then even if you don't get in the first 3 days, still like, 3 to 10 days, it's like 1 million tokens, right? So, I mean, that's still like 1/10 of the cost, and even if you decide to lock them up within 6 months, you're going to shave off, a couple million tokens, which is pretty awesome. I've never seen anybody else do something like this. And I think it's going to give a lot of incentive, and as well as a really awesome reward to people that are really interested in this and here from day one. It's rewarding those early people that are supporting the platform, and I think it's a game changer. I think it's pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome, interesting. So, Christina, what are the most common questions or misconceptions that you feel people have when it comes to the Double Dice gaming platform?
Okay, so this answer is pretty short, in my opinion. For me, one of the main misconceptions people have is that Double Dice token is meant to be a payment. It's not meant to be a payments token or a hybrid token. When I say a hybrid token, I'm referring to payments and utility. It's not a payment token. It's not. That is to say that all people that place bets and people that call bets and whatnot are going to be doing it through a betting process that will utilize other token means for placing their bets, such as ERC20 tokens or stable coins. That's pretty much it.
Okay. So this is my last question. So Nick, do you agree with her, Nick, or have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think obviously very much in agreement on all the points we've touched on. I think that this platform is going to be a game changer, and I think we touched on getting rid of the house. We touched on making bets more fair, and to be honest, in my mind, a lot more fun. And it's going to help draw in people that maybe were never interested in doing online gambling, just because of the different things that will be able to be possible with the platform
and the unfair odds.
Right.
Odds.
Right. And I just think it's giving people, a toolbox that says, hey, if you want to run a room, you have a lot of really fun and innovative ways that you could use that. And beyond just having fun, obviously, you can make a profit doing that, running a room. And for the users and the bettors that are going to be using the platform and maybe not running a room, I think that's going to help you have a lot more interesting ways that you can place bets beyond just the standard stuff that people have been doing for so long, in a much more fair and transparent manner.
So the other thing is that people think online gaming is already saturated. Like, au contraire, this is a huge, big play. Like, Double Dice has said that they intend to transfer the value being traded from centralized, non-democratic environments to their decentralized, democratized protocols. By doing so, they're no longer be limited to the current gaming market size of 250 billion per year. The online gaming market is currently at about 250 billion per year. But they definitely plan to increase the size of the market through this debottlenecking of market participation. And I see this as a direct hit to gaming costs, which for some are a barrier to entry. Whether it be, regulatory concerns or as it relates to unfair trade practices, this is like mind-boggling and mind-blowing, and it truly indicative of the spirit of the Constellation hypergraph as it relates to micro businesses, services, transactions, payments, whatnot. Like, this is revolutionary and groundbreaking. Only Sunday during the Nat Haruni podcast did I realize just how important layer zero interoperability would be for the gaming industry and Double Dice specifically. Lastly, I think that, their multi-payment system or settlement protocols and proprietary algorithms are patented until 2032. Okay, they're patented until 2032. What we need to do now is add a network effect for Double Dice, and strengthen their first to market advantage. I think that this is likely the reason that they have designed their tokenomics the way they have, rewarding loyalty early on and increasing yield farming. I just think that, the whole idea of the token drop for holders in 24 months and whatnot is a balloon-ish type scenario. And everyone that, even small holders that hold DODI, are incentivized to do this, social media engagement and drive people to the platform. Most people would say, this is a huge supply at 10 billion tokens. But if 20% of that gets burned, or 50% of that gets burned, if the milestones are met, and it's distributed to early stakers or early investors, then this becomes a very interesting play indeed.
Well, I think that wraps it up for me. I'm done with my questions. Anything else before we end this podcast, Amy?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're a rock star as usual, and I was late. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much, and hopefully, I'll get you guys back on. Definitely would love to have you guys. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up and end this, and thank you guys
So,
later.
so real quick before you do, I just wanted to reiterate that we have a contest going this afternoon. So at 4 o'clock Central Daylight Time, we are going to release this on this podcast after you've edited it and whatnot. We're going to release it on Twitter, and we're going to run a contest. And there's 150 lattice up for grabs, and 100 lattice goes to the person that retweets your podcast and gets the most retweets of their original tweet. And then 50 lattice goes to the person that posts your podcast on the most different platforms. Like if they go on Getter or Brighteon or BitChute, and like Reddit or whatever, if they the most different platforms, right? If they get busy and they do this in like 30 minutes, they can get 50 lattice. And 50 lattice is not going to be anything to sneeze at 6 months from now.
Awesome. All right, thank you guys very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and that is a wrap.